Hello there. So today I had a very lovely meeting with somebody that I have hired to help me out with organizing the company. So this is something that I'm good at. Process is something that I'm good at and that I love doing, but I don't have a lot of time to do it right now. But more importantly, I have created a bunch of process and I have created my business in a way that makes sense in my brain, but that doesn't necessarily make sense for everybody else. Slash, when I have new teammates, sometimes it doesn't work. I've also created this business before I had teammates, and so bringing on new members has really created new challenges, as you would expect. So what have I learned in going from 0 to 3 team members, because it happened really fast? Well, the first thing is that the way you communicate is really important. And I don't mean the style in which you communicate, although that is very important as well. What I'm talking about is the logistics of communicating with 3 different teammates. So when I had one teammate, it was a lot easier to keep track of emails and text messages and phone calls or notes that I had around or whatever it was, because it was just that one person. I knew exactly what they were working on, and it's not that much to have to deal with. But the minute that I got 2 and then 3 teammates, it suddenly became much more difficult. And I'd have one team member email me, and then I'd have another one text me, and maybe I'd have a call from somebody else, and then later when I thought, I need to go, like, what did they say about this client? I couldn't remember what mode of communication they had used. So in the beginning it was like, okay, this is fine, I'll figure it out. But it got to be to the point where I just couldn't remember anymore, and I was wasting a bunch of time trying to figure out where that message had come from or where I had sent my message. So I decided everybody needed to be in one place. And email was not the best for me, because I get a lot of other emails coming in, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything from my team members, because my team members come first, right? So I decided to leverage the app that I was already using. So I am with Microsoft, and I pay for their Office 365, which means I have all of the apps that they have available. And one of them is Teams. And Teams is kind of like Slack, where it allows you to have a bunch of different channels, and so we have different channels for different customers or clients, and we can chat with each other in those channels now, which is so good. We only just started doing it, but it's so much better, and I get notified when people this is a texting motion, but I mean communicate with me in Teams. The other thing that's been really tough is managing to-dos. So when I only had my own to-dos, then it wasn't a problem, because I just had my list and I had my blocks of time, and it was great. But as soon as I started delegating to more than one person, then I started to lose track of the things that I was supposed to do, what they were supposed to do, when am I supposed to check in with them, have I delegated that thing yet, or like how does that work? And this was especially important when I brought on an assistant, because they were helping me to manage my to-dos. So it wasn't just me managing and then delegating, it was me and another person managing what needed to be done, and that became a real challenge, especially because this is the first time that I've had somebody else help me to manage the things that I need to do. And so normally I just keep it all in my head / my system. Like, I have my planner, my paper planner, and then I've been experimenting with different task manager apps, and they weren't really working for me, and I had a lot of paper lists. And then as soon as I had somebody else on board, those paper lists just don't work anymore, because the assistant that I hired is not in the office. So she and I chatted about what the best way to do this was. I chatted with my partner, and he suggested maybe Planner, Microsoft Planner, another Microsoft app that I was already paying for, would be a good way to go. And so I've started doing that, and there have been some learning moments, certainly, but just having a system that we're using and a process that we discussed beforehand is huge. So I don't know that Planner specifically has been the greatest thing. I mean, it's fine. I don't have any complaints, but I think that you could use almost anything. The key here is that you've communicated the process that you're gonna do every time you have tasks that you need to monitor or to delegate or whatever. So you've communicated that to your team, and you've set out expectations right from the start. The minute that you don't have expectations, or you're not clear about what each person is responsible for, that's when things start to get really muddy, and that's when tasks start getting dropped. So finding a good process for communicating with each client and having it all in one place was huge, and finding a way to manage all of our to-dos and who's doing what and where they're at in each process was also a really big one. So those are kind of the big two for me in going from 0 to 3 team members, because now suddenly everything I was doing beforehand doesn't work anymore, and I'm having to rethink this whole thing. So those two things are what I've hired this consultant to do with me. So today we had a meeting where we went through what my current process was, and we went through the client journey. So this person talked me through, I'm a client that has never heard of you, or I'm a potential client that's never heard of you. How do I go from there all the way through to becoming a client? And we talked about, I have 2 different ways that happens, and so we talked about both of them. And we have another meeting scheduled in a couple of days to go from, okay, great, now I'm a client. How does the rest of that client journey look, and where are some of the bottlenecks, and where are some of the breakdowns in the process that are already in place? The onboarding piece I had thought a lot about, and so that piece and the front end piece I'm pretty happy with, but I'm really excited for the second piece and trying to manage these tasks and trying to communicate with my team, because there's a lot of challenges that go with having a team, and so I would love to just focus on the people part and learning how to manage, and not being worried about how to communicate and how to delegate tasks and making sure they all get done and that kind of thing. I would love to hear your stories about bringing on new team members. How did you communicate with them? How did you manage tasks and things like that? How did you create process before going to the apps or signing up for apps? Because I think it's really important to know what you want before you go looking for apps, because it's really easy to get distracted by all the fun little features that they can do for you. It's easy to get sucked into maybe something that you don't necessarily need. I think another big thing when you're growing your company is understanding the requirements for accounting and tax. Obviously, that's what I love to do, is accounting and tax. And so I have created a free little offer here. It's just a little brief PDF document. You can download it for free. It's the 7 accounting mistakes small business owners make and quick fixes to stay out of trouble. It goes through 7 different things that businesses tend to make mistakes on. It tells you how you got there, or why that mistake gets made, what needs to happen instead, and the solution to potential problems from if you have made that mistake. So it's in the description. I encourage you to download it, and let me know in the comments what you learned from bringing on your first team member. I'll see you tomorrow.